this demo, we'll walk you through the deployment of the isolated workload domain with a shared NSX instance available in VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2 on VxRail 8.0.300. Thanks to the improvements introduced in this release, such as reductions in deployment time, complexity, and resource consumption, the overall process has been streamlined and is more efficient. Customers can also benefit from the centralized network policy management. Hi, welcome to this demo. We'll be deploying an isolated workload domain with a shared NSX instance using a new feature available in VCF 5.2 on VxRail 8.0.300. IT departments acting as managed service providers might use this feature to deliver dedicated and separated infrastructure clusters for their internal or external customers. The isolated workload domains were initially introduced in VCF 5.0, but required separate NSX instances. In VCF 5.2, this requirement has been removed, improving efficiency. Configuring a workload domain in VCF on VxRail is a three-step process. Entering all necessary configuration information to the workload domain provisioning wizard, reviewing and validating the configuration before provisioning to reduce the risk of errors, and finally, the actual fully automated deployment orchestrated by the SDDC manager. Let's dive in. In our VCF on VxRail lab environment, we already provisioned a management workload domain called VCF 5.2, consisting of 4 VxRail hosts, and a VI workload domain called isolated-WLD1. It is composed of 3 hosts, which is an isolated workload domain. We will add a second isolated workload domain that another customer could use to leverage virtual infrastructure from our VCF instance. The first step to provision this new domain is to open the provisioning wizard from the Plus workload domain drop-down list and enter all required configuration information. We need to select the VI-VxRail infrastructure setup option. Note that the VxRail architecture awareness is visible in the SDDC Manager UI, built through years of solution co-engineering between VMware and Dell. You can skip the first screen or open the product documentation to learn more. In the storage section screen, we can select the type of storage we would like to use for this new workload domain. We'll proceed with vSAN as a native storage option in VxRail. We can also enable vSAN ESA, Express Storage Architecture, which is an excellent option for customers who require high-performance software-defined storage. In the VxRail VI configuration wizard, first we need to enter the host name of the VxRail manager, which manages the cluster that we would like to add to the new domain. Then we connect to read the configuration information. We are then asked to confirm the SSL fingerprint and to enter the VxRail admin and root credentials. Now we can click Next. In the General Info screen, we need to provide basic information about the virtual infrastructure to be provisioned, such as the name of the workload domain and the data center name within vCenter inventory. Then we have the option to join the management SSO domain or create a new SSO domain. To create an isolated workload domain, we must choose the latter, provide the SSO domain name and administrator's password, and click Next. In the host selection screen, we can choose the available unprovisioned VxRail nodes detected automatically by the VxRail manager. We select all 3 available hosts and click the button below to provide their configuration details. In the next screen, we need to enter the host's FQDNs and root passwords. Because the DNS entries are already configured, the host's IP addresses will be populated automatically when we click the button below. Then, we are asked for the name of the first cluster to be created in this new workload domain. In the compute screen, we must provide configuration parameters for the vCenter that will manage the cluster, FQDN, IP configuration, and a root password. The networking screen lets us choose the new isolated workload domain to join the existing NSX instance, which is the new option available in the VCF 5.2 release. When we select the Join option, we can see the list of already configured NSX managers. We will choose to join the NSX manager of another isolated workload domain, isolated-WLD1, provisioned earlier. Immediately, we're informed that the chosen NSX instance is shared by one or more workload domains that do not belong to the same SSO domain, to ensure we understand the future impacts of the selected configuration. In the switch configuration screen, we must define the virtual distributed switch configuration that will be applied to the newly provisioned cluster. In this case, we'll choose from the pre-configured profiles that match our VxRail nodes configuration. Then we have the option to review the configuration and provide the VLAN ID that is required for the NSX configuration. In the host network screen, we must configure the management, vSAN, vMotion, and VM management networks. The last one allows us to use the same configuration as the host management network. Next, we have the option to provide license details. For this demo, we'll choose the License Later option, which allows us to deploy the VCF components in evaluation mode. With this, we've completed entering all necessary configuration parameters. The next step of workload domain provisioning operation is to review and validate the configuration before provisioning it to reduce the risk of errors. In the review screen, we can check all the configuration parameters entered once again. If we spot any errors, we can go back and modify them as needed. In this case, all information is correct and we proceed. In the validation screen, the configuration we entered is automatically validated through a series of pre-checks to minimize the risk of errors during the provisioning. As you can see, this validation workflow is also tightly integrated with VxRail. SDC Manager has a deep integration with VxRail Manager at the API level. The final pre-check steps include the VxRail cluster provisioning in dry run mode. This demonstrates the tremendous value our customers get from the co-engineered platform. All validation tasks were successfully passed. The final step is a fully automated deployment orchestrated by the SDDC Manager. We can now click Finish to provision the new isolated workload domain. We'll use the configuration we entered and monitor the progress in the Tasks pane. In a moment, we can see that the new domain isolated-wld2 is populated on the main screen with the configuration status activating. To respect your time, we speeded up the playback of the operations. In the Tasks pane, we can see that the SDC Manager deploys a vCenter to manage the new cluster. Thanks to the deep integration with VxRail Manager using VxRail API, SDC Manager triggers VxRail First Run, the automated cluster deployment orchestrated by VxRail Manager. When we switch to the VxRail Manager web UI and refresh the browser, we can see that the cluster provisioning operation has started. After some time, the cluster is deployed. SDDC Manager configures the new cluster by performing operations like renaming VDS and port groups in vCenter, synchronizing SDDC Manager inventory, updating certificates, and more. We can expand the provisioning task to list the subtasks and detailed execution information. As you can see, the SDDC Manager orchestrates dozens of configuration tasks that should otherwise be performed manually. After enabling vSphere cluster services and creating necessary users in vCenter, the SDDC Manager proceeds with NSX configuration. If we switch now to the NSX Manager, which is managing our shared NSX instance, we can see that the new cluster from the newly provisioned isolated workload domain was registered and is being configured for NSX. Finally, after the next few minutes, in the SDDC Manager we can see that the new isolated workload domain is successfully configured. This includes the shared NSX configuration, which we can verify from the NSX Manager interface. This concludes our demonstration. Let's recap. You can see how easy it is to deploy an isolated workload domain with a shared NSX instance in VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2 on VxRail 8.0.300. It's a three-step process: entering all necessary configuration information into the workload domain provisioning wizard, reviewing and validating the configuration before provisioning to reduce the risk of errors, and finally, the actual fully automated deployment orchestrated by the SDDC Manager. The new architecture option with shared NSX improves efficiency by reducing resource usage, configuration complexity, and deployment time, making it more attractive for customers acting as service providers that require it. You can also see the deep integration between SDDC Manager and VxRail Manager through APIs, resulting in a streamlined provisioning experience. To learn more about VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2 on VxRail 8.0.300, please check the blog discussing the new features in this release available at VxRail Info Hub. Thanks for watching.